And hit go. Oh, look at that, recording in progress. So we'll talk for a second or two here to make sure that we are good for editing. All right, bring up the notes. Right on. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of our series as we break down the blockchain and distributed ledger technology industries with the founders and team at DLTx. Today, I'm joined by co-founder David Johnston and the newest member of the team, officially now Chief Marketing Officer, Kaitie. Kaitie, welcome first and foremost to the team, but a little intro and background for those who may not know you.
Thank you so much, Kyle. It's great to be a part of this team. So I'm Kaitie Zhee. I've been full-time in the blockchain and cryptocurrency industries for the last 4 years. I've worked directly with close to around 20 different projects, from decentralized autonomous organizations and protocols down to more centralized projects, I guess. And so here I am now. And now that I'm on board, a lot of the work that I'm excited to bring forward to our DLTx family and followers and shareholders is a lot of emphasis on IRL events, in real life events. That's kicking up. So DLTx will be getting more and more involved in some of them around the world. We're already planning those. James Haft couldn't join us today for this recording because he's speaking in Monaco at Coin Agenda. So shout out for that, where they're talking about public blockchains, meeting the public markets. And so that's stuff that I'm going to be charging forward on, as well as a Capital Markets Day in Oslo, and just a lot of cool stuff coming along. So I guess a little bit from the marketing woman here is that I'd love for you guys to follow along DLTx on social media so you can keep up to date on what we're up to.
Absolutely wonderful. And welcome again to the team, Kaitie. It's an absolute pleasure. And David, I want to start with you today on our series here and kind of talk about what's new at DLTx. For those tuning in for the first time, every week we break down what's happening in the industry and what's happening with DLTx, greater with David and James and the team included as well, to get their perspective, having been in this industry for some time and seeing its ups and downs, lefts and rights, and all over the directions that it goes. And David, you have some very exciting announcements. You just made an investment in blockchain Moon Acquisition Corp, which we were talking about pre-show, but talk to us a little bit about that investment and generally what's new at DLTx.
Sure, happy to. So, it's pretty cool that this whole wave of SPACs has been giving people a new way to participate in the public markets, right? For retail to be able to access sort of, these growth stage companies. And there hasn't yet been a blockchain SPAC in the US. And so to my knowledge, this is the first blockchain specific special acquisition corporation, right? Special purpose acquisitions corporation. That's what people mean when they say a SPAC, right? It's solely set up to collect a lot of capital, select a great growth stage company, and bring it into the public markets. So we're really happy to be an early investor in this SPAC, really sort of support this idea. And James Haft is taking a board seat and involved in sort of supporting the curation of like, what company are they going to pick? And, what are the growth industries to really go after in blockchain and crypto and to take that into the public market for the first time. So yeah, big news for us. It went official, the news on the Oslo Stock Exchange. And so BMAC, or the Blockchain Moon Acquisition Corporation, is born.
Very, very exciting. Congratulations to you and the team. Kaitie, I want to come down to you as well. What else are you having new on the docket for DLTx? We mentioned a few other updates pre-show. We'd love to hear what those are for the audience.
So the biggest focus, I think, is a lot of that shoulder to shoulder networking in real life kind of opportunities. I think everybody's been itching after the pandemic to get out, and there's been a ton of activity. We've plotted out a lot of different events, from things happening to Blockchain Week in Dubai, events in Vegas, New York City around NFTs, Art Basel in Miami has a whole fever of different events that are happening. So positioning DLTx around those to have in real life conversations, as well as Blockchain Week in Puerto Rico. Then we've got some in St. Moritz in Switzerland. I mean, we're not slowing down, we're just getting started. So I'm really excited that these conversations, this is where really a lot of the business happens, is when you can have those conversations and build those relationships. So yeah, definitely just getting things fired up.
Yeah, and the other announcement that just came out officially is we've got an investment from a group called DLTx, and they're investing directly in DLTx. So we're bringing more cash into the organization so we can build up our marketing and our operations and our technology development. So excited about that. Just sort of brings us more resources to do what we do, supporting public blockchains.
Absolutely. And congratulations to you both and the company overall. This is exciting. And David and Kaitie, I want to jump into a very topical conversation around what's happening in the greater industry as we're seeing in DLT and also crypto and digital assets. And that's China and Asia, but more specifically China. Just recently, we did have China come out and banned cryptocurrency in all of its entirety, from transactions to any kind of buy, sell, hold, any kind of use or activity around cryptocurrency. Now, this is not the first time, as we know, but this seems to be a little bit different than those of the past. We've also had this following news of changes in regulation around mining and energy usage. We have companies saying that they're going to be halting the sales of mining equipment starting in October 2021. However, blockchain itself in DLT, distributed ledger, seems to still be thriving. The Blockchain Service Network, or BSN, has gone live in Hong Kong and Macau, exiting out of the country proper and looking at that international component of BSN, opening up new applications. We're seeing industrial application usage of blockchain. Ant Group, Tencent have obtained respectively 631 and 307 patents in 2021 through August 31st. This is big, but also confusion of thought. So David, let's kick it off with you. What do you take and make of all of this change that's coming out of China? Again, banning crypto, but now going that step further and putting in tougher regulations, as we're seeing throughout Asia in general.
So it's helpful to understand sort of the nuance, right? A lot gets lost in the China bans Bitcoin sort of news title. And I've spent a lot of time in China. I went there 25 times in the last 5 years. Spent a lot of time in Beijing and Shanghai and Shenzhen and Hong Kong. And what you get is more of a localized view. Is there's been different agencies inside the government or different states inside of China that have made different pronouncements over time, right? So the first sort of FUD, if you will, about China banning Bitcoin, a lot of that had to do with, they didn't want it directly connected to the financial system, right? And then in 2017, I was actually there speaking at the Global Blockchain Summit in Shanghai when they banned all the exchanges from serving Chinese customers, right? And there's guys with machine guns and they lined the halls and they didn't shut down the conference. They did an amazing job of keeping it open, but there was no conversation about tokens or sales. It was purely academic, discussion of blockchain technology. And that's sort of probably a good way to describe the shift. Is they see the promise and the potential in blockchain technology itself, and they're embracing that with the Blockchain Services Network and everything else, but they don't like the aspects of crypto where there's this free movement of capital or free movement, of these systems outside of state control. And so sort of things have gotten more and more tight on the regulatory side as the years have gone by, right? So after they sort of shut down things in Shanghai, most people moved to Hong Kong. After the tightening in Hong Kong and the restrictions there, most people moved to Singapore. So it's been an interesting transition, but it's certainly been to the huge benefit of Western miners. When the Chinese miners came off earlier this year, you saw half the hash rate of the network drop off. But what that meant was the rewards doubled for Western miners that were in US, Canada, and Europe. And so for DLTx, all of our operations are in the Western world, either in North America or Europe. And so we were sort of one of the beneficiaries of that policy change. And what I hear from colleagues in the mining industry is people are starting to more heavily weight jurisdictional risk, right? Where am I going to be treated best? Where are the rules going to be stable? Where can I operate long term. And a lot of them are looking towards North America. Some places in Europe are very, very friendly as well. And so it's sort of navigating those new waters for people that, you hadn't worried about jurisdictional risk. It's all decentralized, but when you have physical infrastructure, you have to really deal with that reality. So it's, I think, unfortunate because it diminishes the opportunity for the domestic Chinese populace, but it's certainly a boon internationally for people that can move in and fill that space in the rest of the world.
Yeah, and speaking of opportunity, Kaitie, I want to come to you first on this one. We're just before the turn of Q4, and we've had a wild 2021 after an even wilder 2020 for the blockchain and DLT industries. We've spoken a lot about where things are with non-fungible tokens, how things have progressed in mining to decentralized finance, and even discussed metaverses and what virtual worlds will look like as well. But as we head into this Q4, how are you feeling around the overall state of the industry of DLT, distributed ledger technology, and maybe some thoughts as to where we go from here in this last couple months of the year before we head into 2022?
So I think David kind of hit on a lot of thoughts that I do share as well, whereas the underlying technology is being embraced. There's a lot of interest on how this can improve certain systems. Of course, there's always going to be these oversight committees that want to make sure that it's within some bounds so that they don't give up too much of their control for different purposes. So I think net, I think that's a big positive. And I love being positioned with DLTx and how the founders, David, James, Thomas, have really been thinking through how to position this company. So it's all about looking at the individual protocols of the respective verticals that blockchain touches, and is going to make these major transformative and disruptive changes with decentralization, and doing so where they are looking at the different jurisdictions, where they're looking at where are the opportunities, where, so I guess I can back up a little bit. I think when I think of DLTx, I think of it as being a little bit of a proxy for different investors and retail investors, et cetera, to be able to invest into blockchain. Whereas, Bitcoin is kind of a catch-all that's kind of its own unique bird, if you will, in this greater space, and that makes sense. But then there's all of this valuable technology, and people don't have the greatest understanding yet, not the retail investors, on where to get involved and how to minimize their own risk and add it into their portfolio. So I think DLTx is positioning themselves for a great journey ahead for that.
Absolutely. David, anything to add? What are you feeling for this industry, and also thinking may come about here in the next few months as we wrap into Q4 2021?
Well, for me, this year is about the other use cases of blockchain really going mainstream, right? So up until now, the story has largely been about money, right? Mm-hmm. Bitcoin, the first real application of blockchain that gained traction, right? And pioneered the technology. And then you had Ethereum with smart contracts, but mostly they were used for finance and DeFi and money-related use cases. It's really not until the last, say, 12 months since, let's say, the launch of Filecoin, that we've seen things like decentralized cloud that we've been dreaming about for years. I funded a lot of the predecessors in 2013, 2014, 2015. And now all of a sudden it's become mainstream, and Filecoin has surpassed 10 exabytes of storage on their capacity, and miners all over the world providing storage to the network, right? That's a competitor to AWS. Now we're breaking into a whole nother vertical. And I think we're going to see more of those. It kind of reminds me of the early days of the internet. At first it was like, oh, it's just for college students, it's just for, fill in the blank. But then it got to a point where other types of websites went mainstream, and everybody had, oh, I want to go to my sports website. Oh, social media pops up. Oh, now there's video streaming, right? And we broke out of like email and corporate, and it's just a productivity tool, or for university students, now it's a mainstream thing. So I think we're finally getting to that same point with blockchain, which is, to me, very exciting to see.
It's exciting, and it's just the beginning. I think we've all can agree, and we are very much in for an exciting ride, not just here in the last bit of 2021, but also looking ahead to 2022, as well as some of these use cases start to come more public to market as well. I'm looking forward to hearing more updates from the DLTx team and your involvement with each and every one of these. And we'll come back in our next episode around Filecoin and some of those updates as well. David, Kaitie, thank you both very much. Kaitie, where can everyone find out a little bit more about DLTx online if they're looking to visit the website, social media, et cetera? Where can they go?
So as we're building up, the website is always going to be best. That is DLTx.com. And then we also are getting the blog going where they have a little bit more friendly lingo to some of the narratives that we're building out. That's on Medium at the moment. And that is Join DLTx across Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn as well. It's all under Join DLTx.
Wonderful. Kaitie, David, thank you both very much. A shout out to James, who wasn't able to join us today. We'll have him back here on the next episode. Everyone, do reach out to the team at DLTx if you haven't already. They would love to connect, add context, where you heard them, where you met them, what you would like to continue the conversation about. With that, everyone have a wonderful day. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Until next time, DLTx. Take care, everybody.